You're watching Around the World, our top global stories. First up, the summit of European leaders in Ukraine. Even as the one-year milestone of Russia's invasion of Ukraine approaches, top officials of the European Commission, including its president, Ursula von der Leyen, have all landed up in Kiev, Ukraine's capital. Ukraine's President Zelensky met von der Leyen. The head of EU's Executive Commission arrived in Kiev by train on Thursday, a symbolic show of support for Ukraine as the first anniversary of Russia's invasion, which began on the 24th of February last year, approaches. This was ahead of the so-called summit on Friday. On her fourth visit to Kiev since Russia's invasion, von der Leyen said that she was comforted by Ukraine's anti-corruption drive. She even praised wartime Ukraine's quote-unquote brilliant application for European Union membership.
You prepared your application for the European Union membership brilliantly. I know it by experience. You became a candidate country while fighting an invasion. You continue to make impressive progress to meet the 7 steps of the Commission's opinion. I'm comforted to see that your anti-corruption bodies are on alert and effective in detecting corruption cases.
However, despite that high praise, Ukraine joining the 27-nation bloc is still a long way off. At least that's what top European Union officials say. The cleansing of endemic corruption is a key condition for joining the EU. Zelensky has lashed out at government officials twice this week already for the recent corruption scandal that broke out on illegal payments and overinflated military contracts. Many high-ranking Ukrainian government officials have been dismissed. Von der Leyen also announced that an international center for the prosecution of the crime of aggression in Ukraine would be set up in The Hague in the Netherlands.
Russia must be held accountable in courts for its odious crimes. Prosecutors from Ukraine and the European Union are already working together. We are collecting evidence. And as a first step, I'm pleased to announce that an international center for the prosecution of the crime of aggression in Ukraine will be set up in The Hague. This center will coordinate the collection of evidence. It will be embedded in the joint investigation team, which is supported by our agency, Eurojust.
European Union leaders are meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky in Kiev with the promise of new sanctions against Russia. But that does not mean Ukraine will be swiftly given the membership to EU. Speaking in a video message, Zelensky suggested that Ukraine and the EU have reached very important mutual understandings on the matter.
Today we have reached some very important mutual understandings in the framework of negotiations with the President of the European Commission and members of the European Commission Board. That only together a strong Ukraine and a strong European Union can protect the life we value.
Zelensky also declared that Russia's strategic defeat is already clear. Meanwhile, Ukraine has slapped Wagner Group, the Russian mercenary group's founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, with criminal charges. Moving on. Is it the moon? No. This is a Chinese spy balloon. Yes, a large white balloon, suspected to be a Chinese surveillance unit, has been lingering over US airspace and has got the Pentagon all riled up. The suspected Chinese surveillance balloon has been spotted hovering over American airspace for a couple of days now. And one of the places the balloon was spotted was over the town of Billings in the state of Montana in the US, which is home to the Malmstrom Air Force Base, one of America's 3 nuclear missile silo fields. The Pentagon was told with quote-unquote very high confidence that it is a Chinese high-altitude balloon and that it was flying over sensitive sites to collect information. The size of the balloon has not yet been specified, but it seems to be large enough for commercial pilots to see it, despite its high altitude. The US had its fighter jets, including F-22s, ready to shoot down the balloon if ordered by the White House, but the Pentagon ultimately recommended against it. Although the balloon is currently over a sparsely populated area, Authorities fear that its size would create a debris field large enough to put many lives at risk. The discovery of the balloon puts a further strain on US-China relations at a time of already heightened tensions. The US have engaged many Chinese officials via multiple channels to tell them just how serious the matter is. Shifting focus, amid rising violence in the West Bank, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with France's President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. Netanyahu declared that his agenda was Iran, but Palestine is incensed that Macron even chose to host Netanyahu at a time like this. Netanyahu's visit began with a dinner at the Élysée Palace in Paris, where Macron's office, which affirmed France's solidarity with Israel in the face of terrorism, also stressed on the need for everyone to avoid feeding the spiral of violence. The Israeli leader is also meeting business leaders and members of France's Jewish community on this visit. Right before embarking on his journey, Netanyahu told the press what exactly was on his agenda.
The main issue that will be the center of our discussion is, of course, Iran and the joint efforts to fight its aggression and its push to obtain nuclear weapons.
This comes even as the French Navy seized thousands of assault rifles, machine guns and anti-tank missiles in the Oman Gulf. They had come from Iran and were heading towards Yemen's Houthi rebels. It's the latest of many such interdictions of Iranian ships amidst Yemen's long-running civil war. Although the focus was on Iran, Netanyahu's trip has enraged Palestinian supporters, even as Macron is offering help to revive the long-stalled dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians. Pro-Palestinian activists have planned a protest in Paris to decry Macron's decision to host Netanyahu at such a volatile time. Demonstrators say they will protest prison conditions in Israel for Palestinian militants, including solitary confinement and limits on family visits. And now we take you all the way to Mexico's capital, Mexico City, which has marked the official end of Christmas after 40 days from the birth of Jesus Christ. And that's done by celebrating the Dia de la Candelaria, or Candlemas Festival. Hundreds of people gathered on the streets of Mexico City to commemorate the day when Mother Mary brought Jesus to the temple in Jerusalem for the very first time. Catholic Christians celebrated Candlemas by lighting up candles. People brought out dressed-up statues of baby Jesus for the parade, even as they sang and danced on the streets. It's one of the most significant religious events in Mexico's calendar, celebrated every year by Catholics on the 2nd of February, exactly 40 days after the birth of baby Jesus. And this day is marked by the arrival of Ninopa, a 400-year-old statue of baby Jesus. The statue of Ninopa is a treasure for locals to continue the tradition. The caretaking family of Ninopa changes every year on the day of Candlemas. And finally, for the first time ever in the United States of America, dozens of Ukrainian ballet artists in exile took to the stage after having escaped the Russian invasion of their home country. The United Ukrainian Ballet is a dance company with a collection of ballet dancers from the national theaters of Ukraine in Kiev, Kharkiv, Odessa, and others. The dance company is also a diplomatic mission, according to its members, who are mainly Ukrainian refugees who fled their country in the months following the Russian invasion. Based in The Hague in the Netherlands, they made their debut in the US at the Kennedy Center in capital Washington, D.C., and they intend to bring Ukrainian culture to the world. And the audience gave a standing ovation to these dancers who sang the Ukrainian national anthem, hand over heart, at the end of their performance, even as they waved their country's flags. We leave you with those visuals. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it with News 9+.